Welcome back to all our listeners. It's that time of the week again, where we discuss all things FPL on the First 45 podcast, brought to you by Craig and Darren.
Hello everyone, you're listening to the First 45 podcast. With me as always is our FPL experts, Darren and Craig. How are you guys?
I won't go as far as expert, but I'm here anyway.
I like it. How much are you paying him, Craig?
He's upgraded us. No such thing.
I might redact that.
Yeah, redact it. Take it out. Very good, thank you, Joey. Football's just blurring at the moment, isn't it, lads? Just too much going on. I'm sort of looking forward to normality to resume in a way and get the crowds back.
Yeah, definitely. As you say, mate, it's so many games at the moment, almost too many in some ways. It's a bit like Christmas, isn't it, when they come like 2-3 games a week, 2 game weeks a week, and it's like towards the end it gets a bit like you've had enough of it almost, haven't you? But that's good to have another week.
Makes for a ruthless FPL following as well, doesn't it? You every day there's something going on, and also at the same time you feel the pressure of when your team's not performing, you're expecting points.
Yeah.
Like it's not good for the nerves, is it? When you're seeing your players blanking every day. It's tough to take at times.
Frustrating. I think it's frustrating a lot of people that have played it this year when things, like you said, aren't ticking. That slow release of games isn't great, as you're saying. It's not ideal, but we're getting through it. And as you said, Daz, it is a bit like receiving so many Christmas presents, and by the end, you don't even really want to open them anymore. It's getting like that a little bit with the football. You start to lose a little bit of touch with it, and I guess if you're not doing very well with FPL as well, and you're a budding player like us, it can be a little bit off-putting. But yeah, we're getting there though, aren't we? The light is at the end of the tunnel.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So perhaps we should kick off with you telling us how you got on so far rather, in what has been the epic game week 26. Craig, perhaps you want to tell us how your team's been getting on first, mate?
Yeah, doing well actually. So still climbing, which is pleasing. 87k to 53k. I'm on 78 points. Got players playing tonight as we're recording. Going back to our point that there's just so many games at the moment. We're recording now on a Wednesday evening, and we still got players playing in game week 26. But I've seen that both Burnley and Aston Villa have conceded. So there's 3 of my potential clean sheets from the 2 Burnley players and 1 Aston Villa player gone. So, not a great start to tonight. But again, points on the board seems to be the way forward at the moment with 26. If you get a few points each day, it seems to be like you can climb. So I got 6 points last night with Gundogan and Diaz. Didn't have Stones play, and even that was enough to push me up the rankings by another 5 or 6k. So yeah, all going quite well. I chose to keep Dominic Calvert-Lewin in the end instead of opting for Kane and a -4, which at the moment doesn't look like it's the best choice, because I would have probably captained Kane, so I would have been about 3 or 4 points up on that move, because currently I've captained Salah, who hasn't done anything. So we'll see. Still got another game for Salah.
You're like a steam train through them ranks at the moment, Craigie. Flying.
Yeah, it's been good actually. It's obviously, what it's like. You ride the wave, don't you, with FPL? You feel top of the world when it's all going your way, and then obviously when it's not, it's disappointing. And I've had a real slow start to the season, but yeah, to start pulling myself back within the respectable numbers now in the last sort of 4 or 5 game weeks, yeah, I'm really pleased, mate. Yeah. It's good. We put a bit of effort in, don't we? So it's nice to be rewarded, and sometimes you can go unrewarded in this game. You do need a large amount of luck.
Yeah, agreed. Bit of a steady week for me again. Just kind of a grey/green arrow. I've gone from 26 to 24. Of course, the game week's still ongoing, so I'm not going to get too carried away with that. But yeah, pretty steady start. I went for Ings to Watkins in the end. I think last week on the pod I spoke about bringing in DCL for Ings, but after looking into it a bit further, I decided to go for Watkins. I think with that extra game week 29 fixture in mind, really. And then late on the evening before the deadline, I kind of talked myself into another -4, went for Calvert-Lewin. I think it was fear of missing out really with Calvert-Lewin. He had the 2 plum fixtures, and brought him in for Antonio, which so far has not worked out too great. Obviously Antonio got the goal against City, and I'm kicking myself really, because last week I kind of said Antonio, he can do it against any team, and he proved myself right. And annoyingly I took him out for the hit, but it's all in hindsight, isn't it? Obviously DCL, he could have scored a couple of goals. He's still got another fixture to come, so it could pay off yet. But it's one of them. I think when we started the pod, I kind of thought to myself, if I make any plans whilst talking on the pod, like don't be afraid to deviate from them. Like you still got to remain flexible. But I think because I've got that in my head, sometimes it's almost like reverse psychology where I feel like I am going to make that change, But a big part of my game is sticking to my guns and following my instincts. So maybe I need to get back to that.
Cool. So shall we dive into what is going to be another double game week in 27, lads? Perhaps we should kick off there.
Another one.
Yeah, another one.
All the Christmases again.
Yeah, so, obviously the standouts there straight away are the teams that have got a double. So that's City and Southampton. Daz, perhaps you have any thoughts on that you want to tell us about firstly?
Well, I don't think we need to talk about Southampton assets for too long, boys, do we? Bloody hell.
Yeah, I think you can rule those out, everyone.
Yes,
steer clear.
Yeah,
even one of only two teams with a double game week, and I don't think anyone's going to be really interested in Southampton assets, are they?
I don't think so.
I wouldn't be advising it, being a fan and watching them, week in, week out. Admittedly, I didn't watch the first half against Everton. Second half looked a little bit more encouraging, but I still wouldn't touch any of our players personally.
I've got Vestergaard. I'm probably going to play him, obviously, but in terms of buying, no, there's no interest there for me. What about you, Craigie? Any Saints boys?
I won't go there. I look, if there wasn't game week 29 on the horizon where we've got the blank, then perhaps I would consider bringing in Ings. No matter what form Ings is in, he's the talisman. He does everything, creates everything. And I know we haven't got some, more creative players involved at the moment, like Walcott and Minamino, that can do things both out at the time being. Ings can still do something, and of course we've seen it in the past when he does get a goal, he's invariably in the bonus. And we've said it on the pods before. It only takes him to get one goal and he could get 7 or 8 points, and then of course he plays the next game, he gets another 2. So he's got a 10-pointer there, and with City as well, they've leaked 2 goals in the last 2 games, right? So they've obviously not kept a clean sheet in the last 2, so they can be got at. But because of the blank game week 29, I'm not going to be going there. If I was going to play a free hit in 29, then actually maybe I would consider bringing in someone like Ings, because I do see that he can get 10 points this game week.
Yeah, I'm just not seeing enough right now. Joe, you're genuinely worried about Saints, aren't you, in terms of relegation?
Yeah, I think me and Craig have backwards and forwards on this on WhatsApp, and I think we've both come to the conclusion that we will probably survive this summer and this season. I think personally, as a fan, I'm looking at us for next season with big fear based on where we are right now, lack of money and things like that. But I think where we are this season, we're probably just going to survive.
I think we'll be okay.
You look at the last sort of 15 fixtures, our form, I think we're right down towards the bottom of the league. Last 10, we are rock bottom. And over the last 5, of course, based on that, we're bottom of the league. And I think what you're going to see is a continued trend against that. You can see the fixtures for Saints after this week in 27. They got Brighton, then the blank, then Burnley, West Brom, and Palace. That's a fantastic run.
There's points there.
There's points there.
We need
but at the moment,
2 wins.
I don't think you can touch them. I think
probably only. I think maybe 2 wins, 2 draws. There's no way we're getting sucked in. You look at the likes of Newcastle that just aren't playing very well at the moment. And I just don't see us getting sucked into that. I know Fulham are playing well, but if I see anything happening, it would actually be Newcastle being more sucked into it, because they just don't have anything at the moment. They're like Southampton in terms of their form, but they also don't really have any build-up. And without Wilson there, that's like us not having any build-up and not having Ings. I think they're in free fall at the moment. They're in big trouble for me.
Yeah, their assets, they're depleted as well. So, feel for them as much as I do for the Saints at the moment. Perhaps I'll move us on then to City. We've seen more Pep Roulette this week. I know I was cursing when we saw Gundogan on the bench and no Stoner midweek. What are your thoughts for City assets in the coming game week? They've got looks like they've got Manchester United and Southampton both at home. You expecting more rotation? And if you are, do you see any potential assets that are going to play both?
Yeah, I think there will be rotation. I think that's a given now with Pep. I think, they're in all competitions, so that's what we have to consider at this stage. It's not like they've been knocked out any, or they've already won, the League Cup or something like that, where it means that, they haven't got that to worry about. So I see continued rotation. Aguero back in the fold, presents another dilemma because it doesn't even mean that someone like Jesus is guaranteed, although saying that, he's only started 3 out of his last 6 anyway, with Aguero sidelined prior to the last 2. So that's another headache. And then, of course, it looks like he's got 3 outstanding centre-backs. So you're going to see rotation there. And I would expect, actually, to see Diaz miss out maybe in the next sort of 3 or 4. It seems almost silly for me to say that, but he's played a lot of football, and I think that that is someone that perhaps could do with a little bit of a rest, because I do feel that Stones and Laporte could step up in perhaps a game that isn't as difficult, and maybe Southampton is that game. He might look at that and think, they're not been playing fantastic. So yeah, I don't expect Pep to underestimate Southampton too much. After all, they did beat them at home when they played at St Mary's against City with a 1-0 win, courtesy of Che Adams' wonder goal. So it'd be interesting. I think there's definitely rotation there. I really like the look of Gabriel Jesus in the last game, I have to say. I thought he was fantastic. Yeah. He also looks like he's got stronger. I don't know if anyone else has picked up on that, but it's one of those things. I was paying real close attention to him because he sort of piqued my interest. And I thought, is that someone, maybe people might want to look at bringing in, because he's not really considered at all. But he's quite reasonable, 9.2, 4.2% live teams as well, taking out the 39.2% dead teams now, which I had clarified, by the way, is a team that hasn't made any transfers in the last 5 game weeks. So that's what constitutes to a dead team. So very lowly owned, 4.2%. I know Aguero's there now, but he looked really good.
I think the difficulty with City assets really is the fact that most of us already own 3 of them, don't we? So it's
that's the problem.
It's not easy to shuffle the pack and get the likes of Jesus. I mean, many of us are probably looking at De Bruyne as someone I know. At some point in the season or some point soon, probably after my wildcard, I'm going to want De Bruyne in my side. He's undoubtedly the standout asset for Manchester City, but yeah, it's difficult to really look at City because of the fact that it means shuffling the pack to get a different asset in, because obviously I've got Diaz and Stones. I'd love to get Cancelo, but it's a luxury move going from one of those 2, as we've spoken before. Gundogan,
yes,
is an interesting one. I didn't see the West Ham game, but I saw a few stats and I was a little bit worried, actually. No shots in the box, no minimal touches in the box. I wondered if it was to do with De Bruyne coming back. I'm assuming it probably is. After watching the highlights, yes, I did notice that Gundo was still breaking forward. Maybe it just didn't fall for him right in that match, but I was hoping to see him against Wolves last night to get a better look at him. But obviously he didn't play, came on, did pretty well. And actually the fact that he didn't play is probably a key factor in why I'm considering him still for the captain, despite the sort of underlying stats suggesting he might be in a bit of a deeper position, purely because I feel like he's probably going to play both games because he's had his rest now, if you know what I mean. So yes, it's one to keep an eye on.
I agree with that completely in terms of shuffling the pack. We're just not going to do it at the moment, and we won't be the only ones. I would say that the lion's share of listeners have 3 assets, and as you say, you don't want to make those luxury moves at this stage. What I do see is a shuffling of the pack come, game week 30, 31 and onwards, when people start playing their wild card. I can see a few more Cancelos. I'll certainly see a KDB's popping up, and a Wise too, really, because we know what KDB can do in the damage that he can cause. Cancelo worries me a little bit. I have to say, I had a little look at him, and he has missed. Look, he can be explosive, and we saw in the European game how well he did, and he had an absolute worldie, didn't he? He was setting up all sorts of opportunities, coming away with attacking returns. Everyone's sort of cursing their luck, saying, why hasn't he done that in the league? And of course, he did get that 17-pointer 4 or 5 game weeks back, so he's got it in him. We all know that. But, to miss out a few games in the last 10 game weeks just doesn't fill me with total confidence.
I think if anyone was looking at going from one of the 2 centre-backs to Cancelo, the one to look at is definitely Stones, because I think Laporte
definitely
has proved that he is good enough to potentially either break into that team or provide a very good backup or rotation for Stones, whereas Diaz, I think, is nailed.
I agree.
I think the Diaz and Cancelo double up is probably the optimal there.
Agreed. On that, I mean, that's a great point, because that is definitely the moves, and it will become, I think, the template. You're going to see probably quite a lot of, sword pick in Cancelo that can obviously just rifle you up there with some big returns when he does play, and then the shield pick in Diaz, right? Someone that's going to play pretty much every single game. And that's the interesting thing with City at the moment. In a couple of seasons gone by, they haven't been this defensive force, have they? At the moment, it feels like the value is there. They're cheap assets and they're churning out 6 points most week each on sort of average. So that's where the value's at. When I play my wild card, am I going to want to go? I might go for it. I mean, I'm going to play my wild card around game week 31. I'm likely to just shift out, keep Diaz and go KDB and Gundogan, to be honest, because Gundogan at 6 is value. He's the same price as the defenders. He gets the point for a clean sheet. He's likely to get more bonus. He gets 1 more point for a goal. Obviously, I can't speak for the future. We have to see what happens with Gundogan, but I feel like there's value there in keeping a Gundogan instead of having a Cancelo. So I might go, you're basically been comparing the two, right? You're looking at 2 players there. In fact, they're the same price. You've got Gundogan 6.1, you've got Cancelo 6.2.
Do you think there's any, just on what I touched on a moment ago, do you think there's any reason to be worried with Gundo, positioning-wise? Or, I mean, I watched the game last night, and when he came on, he still looked great. He was still trying to get, towards the attacking areas.
I think that was maybe last night, contextually, was probably not a good example.
He was literally on the sideline as they scored, so I wasn't even sure if he was going to come on or if Pep was going to change his mind, but he did. He did come on. So actually, that probably suits your point. It changes the dynamic, right? All of a sudden, Wolves naturally need to go for something, and at 1-1, Wolves would be more conservative. They would have happily walked away with a point at the Etihad. Let's be honest, anyone would. So it created more room for Gundo.
Yeah, and the game did get very open at the end, didn't it?
Very open, which meant he had opportunities. He was getting in the box.
So I personally think you're onto something there, Daz.
Still, just such good value, isn't he? Even if he is making fewer runs into the box, 6 million. It's just such good value, but I guess it's more the fact that he's taken up a City spot, which we're going to need for the likes of De Bruyne.
Yeah, agreed. It's a one to watch, and let's keep an eye on it. I think if we start seeing Gundo of old, right, and he has played there for, I think it's 4 or 5 seasons now, certainly 4. If he turns back into the kind of Gundo that ticks along, keeps the play going, moving forward, and is a bit deeper, and he's not making these runs into the box, and potentially, and of course with Aguero back, that's the other thing, right? You've got to consider that he was almost, as we've talked about, playing like an Aguero role. He was basically a forward. It was insane. Some of the moves that he's making, he was the most advanced. He's the one that's darting into the box, ready to tap the balls in, and kind of 6 yards out. So interesting, isn't it, with Aguero back as well? There's a lot of value in that defence, so I understand it.
Here's one for you. If you're on a free hit this week, which City assets would you be looking at? There's probably people that, maybe got only 2 of them. Which one do you think would be a good shout to boost the rankings? We haven't spoken about Sterling yet. Is it still De Bruyne, do you think? Or
De Bruyne for me. De Bruyne for me. I think I've made a note here that if I was looking to chase something or push myself up the ranks and didn't really need to be too conservative, I'd actually even consider a -4 for KDB to actually get him in, because I know it's not an easy move. I would consider bringing him in and then captaining KDB this week. I think he starts both games, personally. He will definitely start against Man United. And so I just see that, if you know you're getting 2 games at home from KDB, I mean, there's almost a guaranteed 10 plus points there. So, there's not too many standout captaincy picks this week, and I'm sure we're going to get onto that next, aren't we, Joe?
Yeah, let's move on to that now, guys. Obviously, again, there's doubles, but there are good fixtures around. So perhaps you want to take us through who you're thinking about for captain this week, Craig. As you've mentioned it there, do you want to go first? Yeah,
sure. Yeah, again, look, if you had the ability to have KDB in your side, I think that's the standout captaincy for me this week, if I'm honest. I don't, and I'd imagine the majority of others, if not all, won't have KDB, which is a shame. But if you have the capability to get him in, he for me is a standout captaincy at the moment. I'm going to take DCL out for Kane, as I don't think Calvert-Lewin is likely to have that double game week now in game week 28. Looking at what is being discussed online. So for me, I think bringing Kane in also presents me with an opportunity to captain Kane at home to Palace, which I expect some goals in there. I think Bale's completely changed that dynamic, which we can obviously get onto in a minute. And outside of Kane, Diaz for me. I'm actually looking at Diaz. I know people were thinking about others in the City lineup, but for me, I just feel like he's almost guaranteed 2 games. I'm hoping. Doesn't seem like he's getting rotated too much. And will he get 1 clean sheet? Probably. And if he does get both games and gets 1 clean sheet, he's likely to get 8 to 9 points. So, but I don't like captaining defenders, so I'll end up chickening out of that one, I think. But at the moment, it's on Diaz until I bring Kane in. And then
That's
maybe
interesting, mate. Diaz, that surprises me a little bit from you. Interestingly enough, actually, I saw a stat midweek about United in the matches against the Big Six. It's like only 1 goal scored in the matches in the last 4 or 5 games, something like that. They have a lot of 0-0s or like real low scoring games in the big matches. Obviously highlighted against Chelsea on the weekend. So yeah, I mean that it's hard to actually see anyone scoring against City at the moment.
It is. And even with the goals that they've conceded, they've been a tad unlucky, haven't they?
West Ham caused them a few troubles, like probably the most I've seen them actually be troubled in, since the early part of the season where they looked a bit suspect. But in recent weeks, West Ham's the only team that really have caused them any issues from what I've noticed.
Yeah, they have. And the Wolves didn't really even cause them much trouble, did they? It was a set piece. So, you have to think, well...
Yeah, Connor Cody's first shot on target in his Premier League career, and he scored it.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, a bit unseen there, but yeah, it's a tough one this week. What are you thinking for captaincy?
I think I'm going Gundo. Yeah, yeah.
You mentioned it
purely because he's had that rest, and I feel like he's going to play both games. And I think I've seen just about enough to suggest that he is going to get some attacking chances, some chances for some returns. I think Gundo for me.
Do you think he'll still be on pens even if KDB's playing?
No.
Or do you think it will?
No, I think KDB will pick pens back up personally. Mate, KDB, I agree. Got to be the best dead ball specialist, the best striker of a ball maybe the Premier League's ever seen. He's got to be their penalty taker. He has to be.
Yeah, I agree. People were talking about it when Aguero was on the penalties, and obviously Aguero, prior to the last couple of seasons, had a fantastic record taking penalties, and then all of a sudden it just like the wheels came off, and then he just kept seemingly missing all the time. It was a bit of a strange one. So yeah, I think KDB walks back into that role.
Yeah, I wouldn't even be surprised if you see Ederson take one before the end of the season. Just when it's maybe all out of reach. I wouldn't be surprised if you see him take one at some point.
Daz, here's one for you, Gundogan. So with Gundogan, you're looking to captain him, right? I'm just having a little look here at the fixtures. So they've got Man United at home at the weekend, as we know. Then only 2 days rest, then they play Southampton. And then they've got only 2 days rest, and then they're away at Fulham. So they've got to travel all the way down to London, which I think that's tougher at the moment. I think that's a tougher game away at Fulham than at home to Southampton. And then they've got Mönchengladbach at home in the Champions League. Again, only 2 days rest, and then they play that game in the midweek thereafter. So there's 4 games there, basically, in the next 10 days. So are you still confident that Gundogan gets both games, Man United at home and Southampton at home? It just screams out to me that he's going to get limited minutes.
I think trying to predict Pep is almost impossible, but I'll do the best I can for you.
Yeah.
That Champions League match is the one I think he's not going to want to mess around with. He's going to want his best team for that game. I know they've got a lead there already, but they won't admit it. The Premier League is theirs, and they're going to win the title, I think. Champions League, we've seen it before with them. You can slip up in the Champions League. He's not going to want to take any chances, so fully expect Gundo for that match. So for me, if I was to try and predict Pep, the one I'd be a little bit more concerned about would be the Fulham match 2 or 3 days before that. Right. Okay. So I think with the rest he's just had, I think he's got a fair chance of playing the 2 games this week. But I mean, there's nobody in that team you can hang your hat on and say they're going to play twice, is there?
We talked a lot about City there. Moving aside from them with the other games, is there any differentials that are standing out for you in the next game week? And is there anybody that you fancy over the next few?
I think for me, the standout at the moment for me is Lingard. I mean, what a revival that man has had. I'm absolutely buzzing for him, to be honest, because he's had countless years now of just, being the butt of all the jokes. All the stick has been going towards him from, people and the outside world. He's looked like a bit of a joker at times, hasn't he, doing all of his videos and things like that. But that's just the way he is. He's obviously just, quite a fun-loving guy. And, of course, because he hasn't been doing it on the pitch, everyone's been giving him a lot of grilling. So I'm absolutely over the moon for Lingard. I think he's doing well, and he's letting his football do the talking. I can tell you that. He's really, real fair play to him. He's putting it about in that team. And I tell you what, he does not look one bit out of line in that side at the moment. He looks like one of their best players, to be honest, if not actually their best. I know Antonio's the man that normally gets quite a lot of the headlines because he gets the goals, but Lingard is doing everything at the moment. He's having shots as well that are testing the keepers, and he's creating a lot. So 5.4% at the moment in live teams. He's one to consider with a game in game week 29. Outside of that, the two City boys that I do like, if people were considering moving around.
Back there again.
Well, not many people were, but no, I mentioned Gabriel Jesus. I like the look of him. People know what they're getting with him. A very inconsistent asset, to be honest, but he looked good in the last game. And then Mahrez it's a class above, absolute class above. They were talking quite in length at the end of the football show yesterday over here in the UK, analysing his play against Wolves, and he's just brilliant. He like he's not got speed. It's just the way that he moves his feet is absolutely unreal, and he just creates space for himself to whip balls in, and he gets in some lovely areas.
I'd love to see Mahrez. I'd love to see him actually get a full season, playing week in, week out in that team, because Pep obviously sees something that the rest of us doesn't. Maybe it's the work ethic side of it, but what a talent. He's such a good player. As you say, his feet and twisting and turning in the box, getting shots off that little bend into the far corner. I think he's brilliant player. I
would say that if he played the full season, he would likely get to 20 to 25 maybe goal contributions.
I think you'd be looking at 11.5, 12 million midfielder there if he was week in, week out starter.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think he's just brilliant, and we've seen it before. Even when he was at Leicester, when they were in the title-winning season, his output in that year was insane. He got 17 goals, 11 assists. Well, he's still that player. He hasn't dipped in form. As you say, it must just be the style that Pep plays, the fact that he likes to move players around. And the thing is he's obviously got quite a lot of talent at his disposal, and he's got to keep people happy. He's got Sterling up there, he's got Silva, he's got Jesus, he's got De Bruyne, Gundogan, all players, and even Foden. I mean, these are all players that can play anywhere really across kind of the middle, but also the front three, and it's probably difficult to keep them all happy. But even last year, Mahrez got 11 goals and 14 assists in limited minutes. He played 2/3 of the season. Yeah. It's insane. Yeah. I mean, that is insane. It's 25 goal contributions. That's what we were just talking about. I mean, he didn't even play the whole season. I mean, he's he could get back up to those sort of 25, 30 goal a season levels. So I really like him. It's just difficult, isn't it? You go and put Mahrez in as soon as he starts to. I mean, his points, by the way, last 4 game weeks, Mahrez's points: 12 points last game against Wolves. Game before that, West Ham 5, Arsenal away 7, Everton away 9.
Yeah, we know really exactly what he can do, but the minute you put him in,
it's just Pep, innit?
It bloody frustrate the hell out of you. Yeah, it's
Champions League.
He'd be out,
which is why realistically, I don't.
Shocking.
Many of us probably can avoid. You just can't look at him. Whereas maybe players we can look at in terms of differentials, you've still got Rafinha in there under 10% owned. Surprisingly, actually, considering he's just had a double game week. I mean, West Ham away this week, it's a tricky looking game, but he's such a good player. He probably could still deliver something for you. Obviously, Chelsea in 28, and then, importantly, he's got the fixture in 29, which is the one most of us are going to have an eye on, I think, with our transfers. Lingard obviously misses the Man U game in 28, which is a shame. I think he'd probably get a lot more interest otherwise. Outside of them, you've got Lookman at 2.4%, Liverpool away and City at home, Liverpool at home and City away rather in the next 2 weeks, which is why if you're going to go there, it's probably not going to be until 29 itself when they play Leeds at home. I think you could gather some interest in 29 Leeds at home. Good player.
I agree. Yeah, definitely if you're on free hit as well, almost certainly one you put in at that price point. I mean, he's 5.5 or something like that, isn't he? So he's very low in terms of the price. So is he 5.5 or 5? I can't even remember.
Yeah, he is
now. He's low. I know that. So yeah, it's definitely someone to consider there.
You've just touched on game week 29 there, Daz, talking about Lookman. We've talked about game week 29 over the last few game weeks. so we won't dwell on this one too much, but has your thinking changed in any way about how you're going to navigate that game week, or have you got any differing thoughts about that?
No, not really, mate. Currently sat on six players for 29. Any transfers I make now are likely to be relevant for game week 29. I've got, obviously, like the rest of us, 3 free transfers before that game week, so likely to go into that with at least 9 players. I think nine's a fair amount. I think for the fixtures we've got there, players that I'm probably interested in are going to be Antonio, the man I've just sold, annoyingly. I still can't believe I did that, but anyway. Lookman, Rafinha, and the top dog, Kano, if I can find a route to him, but it's going to be difficult.
Yeah. What about you, Craig?
It's interesting. I'm sorry. I'm still just trying to gather my thoughts after Daz's complaint about Antonio again. He hasn't let it go. I'm interested in there, Daz, why you've done that. So, like you said, you spoke out about it on the pod saying you wouldn't do it as well.
Yeah,
so,
I think it was
sticking the knife in
it was
now.
a knock-on effect because I decided Watkins was a better play because of the double game week 26, potentially another game week in 28. That looks maybe a bit more unlikely now, unfortunately. And then also playing in 29, which is why I went for Watkins over DCL. Yes. And then on the Friday evening, or whatever evening it was, as you said, all days are blurring into one now, the evening before the deadline, I'm sat there without DCL and he's gathering a lot of interest on Twitter, and I'm thinking, oh my God, it's good. If he goes off, it's going to be This
is the problem. This is it, though, isn't it? I think you've hit the nail on the head. It's the fear of missing out, isn't it?
And I couldn't.
I'm like that as well. I've sometimes got to switch off. Just got to switch the apps off. Don't look. Try and delete the app from time to time. Don't get too suckered in, because I basically nearly did with Kane. I mean, maybe it would, it's all hindsight, isn't it? Like you said, DCL goes and gets something tomorrow. You're in a good place anyway. And Kane goes and smashes it tomorrow, then I'm in a bad place because I was considering bringing in Kane again, fear of missing out. But hey, sometimes you just need to filter out the noise. I think we're all guilty of it, aren't we?
The game changes so quickly.
What about you then, Craig, for game week 29?
Game week 29 for me, mate. I mean, at the moment, I've got 7. Having moved in Kane, so I've got 7 if obviously he stays fit, and the others do 2, and 2 free transfers thereafter, right, to bring us up to 29. So the minimum I'll have is 9. Likely to play my wild card just after that. I've got fixtures that look quite good in 30 anyway for a lot of the lads that are playing in 29. So I'm in a good place. I feel like I'm doing quite well with the preparation at the moment. I might even take a couple of hits because I don't see why not. I mean, I could take a couple of hits for players that I haven't got too much value tied up in. As I referenced on last week's pod, I am considering maybe bringing in someone like Aubameyang for Salah, because at least he's playing, and we know on his day, I mean, I could just get 2 points there, right? Make a -4, get 2 points. Technically, it's a -2. Not ideal, but the upside is that someone like Aubameyang could go and get 15 points against West Ham, and then, happy days. So maybe I'll make a couple of hits. Maybe I might try and put out 11. Why not?
I hope you do. Might get a chance of catching you in our mini league if you do. So good luck to you. Right.
Hang on a minute. You told me that you got 4 players.
I have. I've only got 4 at the moment.
Well, there'd be no chance of catching me then, would there?
Well, you take all those hits, mate, and I might have a chance. But I personally learnt my lessons with taking hits on game weeks like that back in, what was it, game week 18 or something like that.
Giving you a bit of a lecture here.
Never again. Yeah.
Well, now who's talking waffle, Dazza, eh? Our host has given us the whipping, and now he's waffling.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to move us on again before I get whipped too much. So, right, we're going to move on to community questions. Every week we ask the FPL community if you've got any questions for us. We normally put out a tweet the day that we're recording, so we've got a few here from today. So I'm going to start off with the first one, which is from Lee, who's asked, who's the best replacement for Barnes? So I'm listening with this with open ears because I've got him at the moment. Lee already owns Rafinha, Salah, Bruno and Gundogan. So have you got any thoughts on that? Perhaps we'll turn to you first, Dazman, on what you think on that front.
Yeah, well, so for Lee in particular, he's got quite a nice midfield there, hasn't he? With Rafinha, Salah, Bruno and Gundo. He's in good shape already. So replacements for Barnes are probably, I don't know, probably someone we spoke about a lot, maybe Lingard with 29 in mind. If you're worried about fielding him in 28 because of the ineligibility against Man United, then maybe Souček, someone who's maybe not quite as popular as he was earlier in the season, but I still think Souček's a good option. He's still on my side, and also maybe Lookman. Not so nice fixtures for the next two, but if you've got a nice midfield there and a decent squad elsewhere, he's someone you probably could sit on your bench with a view to just keep him there for 29.
Some good options there. I like that, Daz. It's pretty good. I can't really compliment that with anything else, if I'm honest. I mean, what I would say is, for me, I probably would go for Lingard. I think he's the standout. So, yeah, look, you've given another couple of alternatives there. As you said, he is club tied. Can't play against Man United, obviously. But I'd probably be inclined to go for Lingard as the more explosive option out of the lot, maybe at the moment.
I'm going to make this next one our last one, which is from Patrick. Who's the best goalkeeper for a game week 31 wild card? Any need for playing a backup? There's a few questions in there. Paddy's got in here with a few. So, is Forster now number one at Saints? So, I mean, I'm going to have a go at that one. But I know Craig's been pissed off with my recommendations on that one. So we'll go to the big one. I think Forster's in now. McCarthy is obviously been dropped, but I'm surprised that happened.
Oh, now you're all
Craig.
saying it, eh?
So let's go to wildcard, best goalkeeper for game week 31. And do you need a backup? Daz, I'll give you the honour again.
I would say Martinez probably for the best goalkeeper for game week 31 wildcard. As for a backup player, I think with 7 weeks left, it's probably not so important. You've mentioned Forster, and he's probably a good shout because he might well have taken that number one spot. I'm not totally convinced by that, but yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to just going with a Martinez perhaps, and then a 4.0 goalkeeper to complement him. And for me, yeah, Martinez. I think obviously we need to consider that game week 33 blank. Is it Man City Spurs? So probably Edison and Lloris are not players you're going to want to think about short term. Any more thoughts on that, Craigie? Any goalkeepers?
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's plenty of... Yeah, you're right. I mean, I guess if you're talking about someone like Martinez, there's a player there that has games to play, right? Obviously, Villa have got to catch up with the rest of the league. They've got additional games outstanding, which, of course, there's been mootings that it might go into 28, but at the moment, there's also discussion that they're going to bring the fans back in maybe 37 and 38 to keep all the clubs happy, so that actually the teams that play at home in 38 aren't the only teams to get that upside. You're the 12th man screaming in the terraces again and giving their clubs a boost, particularly if they're in a relegation fight. So it looks like if they're going to do that and have fans back in the ground in 37 and 38, that we actually might see a double game week in 35, where some of the fixtures, I believe, from game week 36 might merge into 35. Interesting times. I don't know all the specifics. Yeah, I mean, again, only hearing about this today, so I don't know too much detail, but what I do know is if you've got chips in hand, particularly a free hit chip, or even your wild card, and you can kind of hold out a little bit before to 34 or 35, then that might even be the play as well. So, you know, when you're factoring in players for 29, well, if you've got a free hit, do you do your free hit in 29 and then bring some players in that can carry you to 34, 35 that have good fixtures? You know, you have to start thinking outside the box a little bit now. So watch this space on that. But someone like a Martinez, to support what Daz was saying, is a great shout. I mean, look, the guy's been a beast this year. He's kind of that Nick Pope from a couple of seasons back that just looks so formidable. Even last year, Nick Pope was putting in the numbers, to be fair. But, you know, Martinez is the new man that can get those double points hauls, and he'd be the one to bring in, I think, particularly with the game that they've got outstanding above others. So for me, yeah, I mean, I'd probably go with someone like that.
Right, shall we move on to what has become a very exciting part of the pod every week, and that is Four Aside. Four Aside, for anyone who hasn't listened before, is a charity competition where Darren and Craig take each other on every week. They also take on someone from the FPL community. And the loser out of Craig and Daz is going to be donating £100 to Mind Charity. If the community happens to go on and beat Craig and Darren collectively at the end of the season, the guys have agreed to pay an extra £50 each to Mind as well. So there's potentially a lot of money up for grabs there for charity, which is fantastic. This week, before we have a little look at the scores, we've got Fantasy Football Scout man Az, who's FFS_as on Twitter, and we are awaiting his audio at the moment, so we're probably going to be releasing that after the pod. But we'll dive in and perhaps have a quick look at the points tally, and then we're going to do the draw for Darren and Craig's side. So Dazman, perhaps you can give us an update on where we are with the scores.
Yeah, sure. So it's really close, actually, really close. I'm currently in the lead on 170, shortly followed by the community on 166. Is it the community, Craig?
Oh yeah. Is it?
I don't think
Craig?
so, but
Is it not? I need to have it. I bet, Joe, you better cut that. Sorry, mate. One moment.
no, we won't cut that. We'll carry that on. Daz is on 170. He's winning, which is obviously all he gives
Who's on
two hoots about.
Who's
and
on
anything else,
166?
he doesn't. 166
Oh, right,
is me,
okay.
and
165.
the community is 165. So you were almost there. However, you did just try to bury me in the dirt even more.
All I knew is I was in the lead on 170.
Dazza.
Sorry, mate.
Exactly,
Yeah, there
that's
you go.
exactly what I said. So anything else is immaterial because it doesn't concern me, myself, and I, Mr. FPL himself, Hall of Fame third.
Hall of Fame third, yeah. Well, so that means it makes it first pick you, Craig.
My first pick sounds good. I am going to go with.
Which City asset are you going with? That's a big question. It's going to be a City fest there, isn't it?
Come on.
I think this is a hard one this week. I don't even want to go first, I don't think. I'm almost nervous.
Well, you can defer it if you want.
We won't be doing that.
Fucking hell.
I'm going to go with.
Everyone's fucking switching.
Yeah. You do realise the listeners don't give a shit about this. We're spending 5 minutes. Have you made our first picks yet?
I'm almost inclined for you to go first. I just don't know what to do here. I've got a few routes. Give me a second.
Come on.
Does not want to give that money over to charity, does he? Fuck about.
No, I do. I'm happy to do that. I just don't want to lose to Darren again. Right. Oh God. Hang on. What are we going for here? Just give me a second. You can cut this shit out.
Fucking unbelievable.
Dad, this is quite a hard one this week. We've got a couple of double game weeks here. Do you know who you'd go with first? A shadow of a doubt?
Yeah.
100%.
I've done my homework this week, mate. I'm ready. I've got a good side prepared.
Do you know what I reckon's happening in reality here? Craig's trying to work out how to not fuck the picking system.
But you
up.
can't fuck your first pick up, so you might as well
give
just.
myself extra time. Yeah, it's very true. Okay, right. All right, hang on. Let me just gather my thoughts here a second.
You haven't had a chance already, then.
I'm going to go with.
Fucking game week deadline's approaching.
I'm going to go with Gabriel Jesus. Talked him up enough.
Wow, that's a big
I knew you
spend
wouldn't pick
as well.
that either, Daz.
Interesting.
9 million.
Yeah, 9.2. Yeah, I don't think you would have gone there, really. That's why I took so long, to be honest. I don't really need to go with that player, but I don't think you'll pick my other ones either. So,
Well, I'm going to go Gundo.
We'll see.
Yeah, sensible pick, I think.
Yeah, that's probably was the sensible pick, but I don't think I can pick him because I wanted to go Jesus, so I could. That's why I dallied so long, was because Gundo probably is the standout first pick option, but I kind of want to put Jesus in there this week, which is why I was thinking about the maths. Anyway, so you've gone Gundo. I'm going to go for Edison, which you probably wouldn't have gone for. I don't think.
That was probably going to be my next pick purely because I think there's a lot of options in defence and attack as well. So Edison's definitely the stand-up goalie. I don't want Forster or McCarthy, no way. So I'm going to go for Diaz.
No. Yeah, agreed. I think that's again standout, isn't it? Outside of Edison for the four-side comp, I think Diaz is a great shout. Okay, just got to finish it off now, haven't we? It doesn't really matter. I'm going to go to make sure I get into the numbers. I'm going to go for Rafinha.
Okay, I'm going to go Antonio.
Nice, interesting. Yeah, I like that actually. At home to Leeds, it's good. My last pick, I think, to make the numbers up. I'll just double check here, lads, very quickly. I think this is it. Interesting one from me, but it's more just to make the numbers up, really, more than anything. So I've got Edison 6.1, Rafinha's 5.4, Jesus is 9.2. Yeah, I'm going to be bang on the money, lads. So I'm going to go with Salisu, Southampton. Hopefully gets 2 games. Hopefully he doesn't get too many minus points.
And that's brave.
Come away with.
I'm worried for another 9-0 coming, mate. To be honest,
I haven't got any more money. I've gone in. I've lumped it all up front, haven't I? With a 9.2 mil Jesus. So let's see what happens.
Well, he could fill his boots against Saints, so you might make a profit on that.
he's probably not gonna. He's probably not start and can get 2 points.
That could be a big upside
Antonio
there, though. Fair play. You've stuck your neck out on the line now. I like that pick, mate. For me, my final pick is the goalkeeper, and I'm going to go for the ever popular, ever consistent Mr. Martinez.
What's your team coming in on?
I've come in at 23.9.
And what about you, Greg? You're bang on 25, are you?
Yeah, 25 mils. Yeah,
cool.
Joe, hot off the press, I've got Az's team here. So we could do a reaction.
Let's do a quick reaction then. Hot off the press then. We've got Az's team. What's Az's team then, Craig?
Well, Az's team is Johnston in goal. Actually, one I was eyeing up, Daz. I'm surprised you didn't put him in, to be honest.
Right,
4.5 million. He's at home to Sheffield United, maybe? Or, no, Newcastle. Surprised you didn't put him in.
Yeah, don't worry about what
that was the one anyway when you said Martinez. I thought... Surprised about that. He's also gone with Mari, 4.4 mil. Bale, 9.3 mil. Hello. And Antonio, 6.5 mil. So really cheap in goalkeeper and defence.
Right, so I'm going to wrap things up there, guys. Don't forget to let us know your thoughts on Twitter at First45Pod. Hit subscribe on your podcast platform of choice. And I'm wishing you all the very best of luck for game week 27. So thanks, Craigo. Thanks, Daz.
See you guys.
Cheers, boys.
See ya.